You're listening to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
Well, hello everybody. How you doing? Nice, beautiful fall day. Today we're going to talk to Scott Shaha and a new person to me, Matt Arlett, who's in behavior intervention. Scott is head of our security at BISD, and we're going to talk about all the various aspects of that. And it's one of the best aspects, I think, of BISD, because I've known Scott for 25, 30 years. Well, since mid-90s you came aboard BHS?
94, following 94.
Yeah, right. And so, and of course, BHS graduate, and the Shaha family is well known in BISD circles, but you've always been involved in some fashion or form with security issues, right?
Yes, sir. When I was assistant principal at BHS, I was in charge of safety and security. Same thing at Centennial when I went over there.
Yeah.
Did that. So, yeah.
Speaking of Centennial, my wife, Robin, wanted me to say in public how much she appreciated the way you supported her and helped her when she was there.
She made it easy to support her. She's great.
Well, I appreciate that. And, she's working at Southern Gym, one of my sponsors now. But as she said, I told her last night you were coming on board, and she goes, well, be sure to say that. And so I've said it now.
I appreciate that.
But we're going to talk about what these two gentlemen do for the district and how I think BSD is probably on the cutting edge of a lot of the security-related issues, kind of ahead of the curve. We'll talk about what the state mandates and how we already were fulfilling that before they made us do it, so to speak. But let's talk about a couple of sponsors first. Thank you to CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. It's behind the Stone Soup Cafe and all that. It's a very serious workout for those who take it pretty seriously. That's a good line. And but it's got programs, it's got supervision, it's got training. It's not just go in there and start throwing the iron around. You want to get the kind of workout you want. Also, thank you to Shandy Stogsdill, somebody that Scott knows well. She graduated in, I think, your second year there, right?
Yeah,
Shandy
95
Privy.
or 96. I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
And then she had a kid at Centennial when I was there, so I got to talk to her some then.
Oh, yeah. She's a very nice young lady. She graduates this year. And so you're going to start feeling old, though. Pretty soon, some of these kids that you remember, are in 8th grade, 7th grade.
Sure.
You're going to be graduating, and you think, my God, my back.
I've had that, and this is my 30th year. So
30 years.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if I could have done it 30 years. But anyway, thank you, Shandy. She's in the real estate business. As you all well know, she's selling a lot of the Burleson property, and it's going quick. I mean, and we'll probably talk about the growth issues related to what these two gentlemen do, because we are growing and gaining population every year, that it's getting to the point now that these kind of things that we're doing are not just a nice addition, but a necessity. Also, thank you to Our Place Restaurant. I'm sure y'all have been there before. It's a great place. I go there quite often to do a lot of my B&I networking group. And, when I'm pleading for a sponsor to come on board, I go there with them and try to schmooze them. But anyway, Our Place Restaurant, great place. Otto does a really good service. What I like about Our Place is not just the food, which is great, is the stability of the service. I mean, they have a lot of experienced servers, and they stay there. And that tells you something about Otto, I think, as much as anything else. So thank you, Our Place. Also, somebody else that Scott probably knows, Chris Notaboom over at Cigar. Is this your kind of joint? You're a cigar smoker?
Not a cigar smoker, but I would go support Chris.
Yeah. Well, and even if you're not there for the cigars, you can be there for the bar. It's a really nice bar. And I don't know if, an ex-coach is familiar with a bar environment, but, I'm sure when y'all went on those conventions in the summertime, y'all were too busy studying your playbook.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, or breaking down film, I guess, but whatever. But anyway, Wild Cigar over at the Standard, it's a great place to go. They'll have the ball games on. The Rangers are on, and that's really exciting, of course. And they'll have the games on, but they won't be blasting out. This isn't a sports bar as such. But it will have the games on in silent, so you can talk about the game, whatever else you want to talk about. Also, Tiffany Nico at Local Life Magazine goes to 30,000 homes here in the Burleson, Crowley, Joshua area, so it's great for direct marketing. It's one of the most efficient uses of your advertising money. And so, come on, do this. I'm trying to do this at the same time. There we go. Trying to do all the sharing. People that know this show know that I struggle with this every show. But anyway, Local Life Magazine. Thank you, Tiffany. I saw her at the store yesterday. She's doing well. She says, thanks, Burleson, for your support. Also, this young man, Cody O'Brien, been the Burleson graduate, has got his news blog going, the Burleson Buzz. It keeps us up to date on city business. We get the ball game scores. We get the what's going on with the schools and all this. It's kind of replacing the Burleson Star. We do miss that kind of daily news type of situation, or at least weekly newspaper. And he's kind of trying to fill that void. So check out the Burleson Buzz if you want to know what's going on. Okay, so let's talk about, I guess where to start is this past summer or fall, not fall, I would say spring. That's what I meant. The past legislative session, they basically mandated that somebody on campus be armed for any of these emergencies. But that wasn't something that we hadn't already taken care of, right?
Right. We started that process, back in, actually, it was really before Uvalde happened. Mm-hmm. Those conversations had been had. Then when I came on board, we continued those. And so by the time we got all 10 of the school safety officers hired and on campus in about this time last year, around October, I think is when everybody was in, we were already, 9 months ahead of what the state mandated. We had, with those guys and with our SROs, we had an armed person on every campus.
And we had at BHS and at Centennial also, when it opened up, we had police officers on campus. But now every school, I'll put it that way, every school has an armed officer. Now, they may not be Burleson PD, but they're all ex-law officers, right? Retired officers, or they move from being an officer to this position.
So we have basically two programs. One is the SROs, which is what you're familiar with. Those are the uniformed officers, part of BPD. We share them with BPD. They are in all our secondary schools. So our middle schools and high schools all have, and then they have had for a long time, SROs. The SSOs, the school safety officers, is what we just added last year. Those are guys they're retired police officers, all of them, with over 300 years experience amongst the 10 of them, various backgrounds, SWAT, foreign intelligence, homicide, gang, street cops.
Yeah, that reminds me, Taylor, do we still have that video that we used to show from the security?
Yes.
Yeah, let's run that after the second round of commercials, all right? Because I don't know, we got this from y'all. I think Michaela sent it to us. We got this, and it has some of the interviews, and I was really touched by one of the officers who choked up.
I know the video.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'd like to show it to the audience because it's a well-made video, and it's also, it really shows the level of devotion these young men, or older men, if you will, have for it. Because I know two or three of them. Everybody knows Jack Goldman. Everybody knows Stacy Singleton. I know Woody Holman, and I know that they would take a bullet. And I guess that's one of the first things you'd have to ask somebody.
Yes.
In taking this job.
Yes. We put this program together with really a lot of help from the Burleson Police Department, guidance, and where do we need to go next, and Chief Cordell sat in on the interviews because we wanted to maintain that great relationship we have with the BPD. These guys train alongside BPD when they go. Train in some different things about active shooter type things. They go alongside them. It's important that they work together because if something happens, we're going to get the police to a campus, but they need to know who the person is on the campus that has a gun to be able to identify, are they the good guy or the bad guy?
Well, a few months ago, maybe 14 months ago, this was a big hot topic in city governance, and I took a great deal of umbrage, if you will, by one of the council members at that time saying, who's no longer on the council, thankfully, saying that we didn't prepare, or the BPD didn't prepare for these kind of situations, which was totally untrue. Because I remember one Saturday I'm there doing schoolwork, and here comes all these cops, and here comes some SWAT team. I thought, oh my God, we're having a problem. And when the cops walks in, Allard, you're going to have to leave. We're doing an active training. And so I had to pick up my gear and go. I couldn't be hanging around grading papers or whatever I was doing. But I just thought, that was a slander, I thought, against BISD, because I know I went through this multiple times about drills, about being aware of our environment and what to do in certain situations. And, we'd have Mike Alley or Jack, or Jerry Stringer to tell us what to do. And we go through training, and it wasn't like, and then we're just teachers, we don't know nothing about this, but it was, I just wanted to defend our district, so to speak, because I know we took it very, very seriously.
Well, I can't, I don't want to speak for anybody else. What I do know is, as a district, we are very happy and excited about the relationship we have with the police and the amount of training they do, and the amount of training our SSOs do, and they work together. So we feel very good about their ability to take care of what they need to.
Well, that's why the logo is "You're entitled to my opinion," because I just gave it, because I just thought, because after experiencing all the stuff we had to go through and the lockdowns, we had 2 lockdowns in BHS days the last couple of years, and it had nothing to do with something on our campus, but there was events going down the street. I think there was like the gas station was being held up, or there was some sort of shooting in the neighborhood near us, and they locked the schools down because they didn't want the perpetrator to hide in the schools.
Sure.
And they just shut the school down. And, it blows up my lesson plans for the day, but I'll have to get over it. Mr. Arlett, what do you do exactly for the district?
My title is Director of Behavioral Threat Assessment and Intervention. And so my part with the safety and security team is the internal threats. And not necessarily threats, but red flags that may be coming up, whether a student may be threatening to hurt themselves or somebody else. And we address it and set forth interventions that may be necessary.
Well, how does a student get on your radar, so to speak, for an intervention? Would it be a teacher or something, a counselor, whatever?
Yeah, we'll have student will make reports to a teacher, or a teacher will notice something. So we have that. We also have what's called the light speed relay system, which is on all our district issued devices. If a student types in something that could be at risk, a red flag such as a self-harm type situation, it will send us an alert so that we can see where the student is, what they're doing. We can call them down, have the counselors, meet with the student and address what their needs are at that time.
Well, it isn't so much just like if he types in something that's a threat to the school, but a threat to himself,
Absolutely.
Like suicidal thoughts, things of that nature. And so, but if they're not using social media, then you're relying on the teachers and staff, basically.
Well, we'll rely on teachers and staff to notice things. We have Crime Stoppers alerts where it's an anonymous program that kids can, or teachers, or even parents will reach out and say, hey, I saw this on social media and this is of concern. Can we address it?
Well, I've talked about this on other episodes. I had it with some of your BISD colleagues about counseling and with the, Courtney Peets. Yeah. With, talk about, mental health issues and whatever else. As a teacher, when we see this, sometimes we don't, is this just a kid being a kid, or is this really serious? But, and sometimes we just, particularly in younger in our careers, back in the 90s, so to speak, we just say, okay, he's just probably having a bad day. Now, what we've seen, if we just take that attitude, we actually go maybe a little farther the other direction, but it's better than possible consequences.
Absolutely. I would agree. I think we respond a lot more now that, with what's going on. And we've evolved. The children definitely respond differently than we did as kids at times. And they make a lot more statements that are more concerning at times.
Well, Scott, do the SROs and SSOs, do they get involved in the same thing, kind of thing?
The SROs maybe, depending on if there's an immediate, self-harm threat. The SSOs it's important to remember, they are not police officers. They are school district employees who we've authorized to carry a weapon. And they basically have two duties: protect the school from any harm, whether that's internal or external, and protect the people inside the school. And they go around and they check doors. So basically, we tell those elementary principals, however you would have handled a situation like that, if there's a concern about a kid, and that's how you'd still handle it now. We wouldn't involve the SSOs in that unless it's an immediate threat to somebody right then.
But knowing how these SSOs, in particular at the elementary levels, they really bond with these kids. They probably have. Oh,
they love them.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the best benefits of the job, other than the princely sum, no doubt, we pay. Nobody gets rich in the school districts, I'll put it that way. But we know we do this for other reasons, and so do they. But they can contact you. Let's say this, Jack's got, what campus is he on? Like Kingscale?
Jackson Clean Scale.
Yeah, I would say he sees or observes some behavior from some student. He can put that on in front of you. If
Absolutely.
You need to.
He can, and what would happen is if a SSO or somebody were to notice something, they would reach out either to the administrator or the counselor on campus and immediately get a response. I would get notified. Our counselor coordinators would get notified, plus everybody else in admin, depending on what the situation is.
Well, now your educational background, I'm sure, is in psychology of some.
Yes, sir.
Child psychology in a lot of ways.
It's actually, I have a master's in counseling psychology.
Okay.
And I am a licensed professional counselor.
Okay. And so I guess it's not news to you that the 13 to 14-year-old male youth may be a bit volatile, but he may not be in need of what we're talking about here. But how do we tell the difference?
Well, and that's where, again, it's a tough situation, but we do a lot of assessments and we meet with the kids because they do a lot of emotional outbursts.
Yeah.
We have emotional responses, and they, unfortunately, they've generalized terms that are probably not the best. And so we have to weed through that. So the best way to do that is interview with the student, call them down and meet them.
Well, Scott and I both have been in the classroom for years, and we had maybe somebody blow up because something outside of class, and then something triggered it in the class, and then all of a sudden this guy goes off the chain, because his girl broke up with him, their parents getting divorced, you fill in the blank. There was all sorts of traumas that could happen. Was this somebody you would deal with?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, and anytime a student is having emotional outbursts, that's what I look at. They're stating a need. They're telling us through their behavior that they got something going on. And so we will pull them down. We will meet with them, see what's happening, talk about the ACEs or adversive childhood experiences that they're going through, and say, is this what you mean? Or is this another term for, I'm frustrated or I'm upset?
Well, this is a big generalization for me, but my experience was guys act out and girls retained it. The girls would internalize it. And so it's harder sometimes to know what's going on, when you're 17, everything's a crisis. It seems like, your girl broke up with you, you didn't get a date for homecoming or whatever, and it's like your life's over, and so it really made it tough to, sometimes judge. But now, if I were still in the classroom, I'd probably be calling you quite often. Maybe 15 years ago, I said, oh, it's just a teenage thing. We really can't do that anymore. And I think social media has a large role in that and altering the brainwaves, if you will, of our students. Now, y'all don't get involved in it like that, on that end of it.
Depending, I will say social media is a huge part of the issues we face. Somebody may post something on social media, and it could have been innocent to them at the time, and then it just turns into different things. Snapchat allows you to post things on top of it and on top of it and on top of it, so you really can't see where the root of that is. But a lot of what we deal with, especially Matt's side, but sometimes mine is social media. And it's a problem, not only to what it does to kids' brains, but really what it does in creating some type of issue that we need to address.
Right. And a lot of times what I saw a lot with the young ladies in particular was it seemed like their external appearance would change when you see some internal change going on. And so, and sometimes again, it's just a judgment call. And we did go through training, said, hey, this is signs of drug abuse, or this is a sign of physical or sexual abuse, things of that nature. But sometimes, you basically were just making a judgment call. And sometimes, I remember making, I don't know if it's the wrong call, but I maybe would alert a counselor, this may be happening, and they bring that person in and say, no, it's nothing like that. It just, something that's typical.
Well, and we look for things that are changes in pattern of behavior. So you have a student that acts the same way 90% of the time, 95% of the time, and then this day they come in behaving differently or acting differently. That will kind of give us an inclination that something's changed, that something else is going on.
Where do these interventions take place? I mean, you go to the campus where it's happening?
Yes, I will go directly to the campus. I rely a lot on our counselors. Our counselors do a load of this work because they'll be the first line of defense. If by the time it gets to me, something big has kind of happened, and so I will go directly to the campus.
All ages, right?
All ages, from elementary on up.
I mean, for like a 7 or 8 year old kid going through this, it must be tough to watch.
It's very scary at times and very concerning to see our younger ages that are experiencing this and the things that they're saying. I mean, there's been, I will say a negative trend, I guess you would say, because of the way the communication is. And as Scott pointed out, social media allows everybody that impulse to do whatever they want to do and say what they want to say. And when it's going their way, they're perfectly fine. When it doesn't go their way, then there is no gray area anymore. It's, I'm going to an extreme.
Scott and I were being old Burleson hands, and of course we graduated with 87, 86? 90. I thought you were
not quite as old as you are.
No, I'm much older than you. But you remember Burleson as the way it was. Back then, if I had trouble with a kid, I'd go to Terry Ford and say, "Hey, this guy's being a turd. I'll just call his daddy," and that kind of thing.
They may just pull you out in the hall and give you swats.
Yeah, that's right. Or you could talk to them in a way that maybe today would not be socially acceptable. You take a young man out and spell it out for him, or or I'd talk to him, Scott or his colleagues, say, when he's running that third lap, maybe you ought to ask him about what's going on in Master Allard's class, And so that we had this network support, the coaches, I mean, they never seemed to have a problem with, stepping in if I needed help or somebody else did. We had a lot of old time Burleson people that knew everybody from church or from Bowling League or whatever. And so, but we don't have that anymore. Not as much. I mean, we've grown to the point now, it's not the same type of town.
No, it is. It's a much larger town. And again, from my experience, I think the influence has definitely been there where what used to be close and everybody could talk to everybody, social influences kind of impacted how people respond to things now. And we don't get that same level where we can have that personal, okay, let's talk about this. There's a lot of other things we got to do first.
And there's also, the classes are so much larger. There's so much more expected that a lot of teachers, those signals may be missed. When I have BISD people here, when I had the school board candidates here, every one of them I talked to said, I want personally, if I had my way with BISD, they'd have smaller classes because, not only is the educational environment better, but the personal environment's better. Because, towards the end, we were having some pretty large classes, well over 30. I had a couple of them over 35. Now, fortunately, most of them were fine. But if I had a situation where 2 or 3 kids in a class of 38, like I had one year, needed special attention, I may not have been able to give it to them because I was just in survival mode, basically, with a class that big, trying to get through my lesson and try to keep them from horsing around on the phone or with each other or whatever else. And so that was what I would tell Jimerson, Dr. Jimerson, is that we need to find a way to be able to have the teachers have the energy and time to make these kind of judgments and observations, but they really can't sometimes.
It is a challenge for sure. And I mean, we do a lot of supports, not only for the students, but for the teachers, because the teachers are dealing not only with all their personal lives and trying to get through the lessons and everything else, but then they're also taking on all these kids and every trauma or every difficulty that these students are facing, they're kind of taking on too. So we provide, as we started, we're focused 100% on the students.
Right.
We realize that we got to focus on the teachers too. We got to focus on the staff that are serving the kids, because if they're in a good place, then they can support the students.
Right. Now, going back to our experiences, we were on the committee at BHS, I remember, about having to deal with security issues on that campus. And it seemed like y'all were having, your biggest problem was trying to retrofit a security system for a building that wasn't built. It was built in, 97 is when it opened up? Right.
Yes.
So before 9/11, which heightened everybody's idea of what security should be in a public space.
Sure.
And that's, I don't know if we'll get into it until after the next commercial round, but I'd like to talk about the difficulties it is to try to manage security in these buildings, particularly the older ones that we've done some rearranging, but it's still, how many doors does Centennial have? You told me.
Well, Centennial's got 43 doors, exterior doors.
Right.
BHS has 36, I believe. And I would say, my experience being on those campuses is prior to the last couple of years, we had incidents where, kids would park in the back and a buddy would let them in and they wouldn't go through the front door, and they might prop a door open just to run to their car. Teachers might prop a door open to run to their car and get something and come back. And
I did that one
thought
time.
It was, it's pretty pretty innocent.
Until the alarm goes off.
Sure. And all of our exterior doors are equipped with local alarms that if they're open for a certain amount of time, like under a minute, certain amount of seconds, it's going to be what we call a screamer. And it's going to go off and it's going to tell everybody within 2 or 3 halls that there's a door open.
Oh, yeah. I remember it going off all the time. I was in the hallway I had at BHS was right close to an exterior door, and I'd be in the middle of some brilliant lecture and with very attentive students, of course, dialed in, and then this thing goes off. And it basically, in 99 times out of 100, it wasn't something nefarious. It was just a lot of times it's like a teacher just holding the door open, waiting for a kid to get out of the bus or whatever, or like you described, or it wasn't like wasn't really a security issue in the sense, but just...
Well, it's not until it is.
Until it is, right.
And those doors being propped open, we also have the ability to send text messages and emails to admin of, real time, this door is open, so they can go check it immediately.
Oh, I remember, you may not remember this, but I remember when you were vice principal on the BHS campus, and I propped the door open to let a kid, and I'm just hearing it, and it goes off, and you're like, you come down and said, what are you doing? What's the matter with you? Because you don't think about that. We just used to open the doors, and I think that's like it was back in the old days, so to speak. It wasn't like we lacked security, but it never really crossed our minds until Columbine.
It's a different mindset.
Yeah.
And Uvalde caused a different mindset, where a struggle we had or something new last year was we required, starting last year, that all classroom doors remain secured.
Yes.
When kids are in them, no more teaching with your door open. Because what we know, the research says no student has ever been killed in an active shooter situation that's behind an interior locked door.
Well, and the last 2 or 3 years on BHS campus, I remember Wayne Leake, who's still there, right? Mandated that. And it used to bug me no end because I'd have the door shut and there'd be a knock from the counselor's office. There'd be a knock from the front office. Oh, your kid was late. Or, and the day I hated the most was Valentine's Day, where they handed out those mums, those flowers, and I'd be like 5 knocks on the door. And so sometimes I'd leave the door open, but they didn't go unremarked. Let's put it that way. And I got used to it.
It's a mindset and it's a habit, and it was new last year.
Sarah Carlson said it was carnations, so that's what I was trying to think. Yeah, okay.
Right. It was new last year that we required it, and that's something I do every day. I'm on 3 or 4 or 5 campuses every day. I check every door in the district, over 1,100 doors, interior and exterior, to make sure that we're following through with the intensity and fidelity we expect to keep everybody safe. And last year, as we got going, it was just I forgot. This year, it's just what we do. Yeah. I find very little to none doors that are open.
It took some training on my part to get my mind right. Alex Phillips is on there, and he says, it's great to see a community icon. You're a community icon, are you?
I don't know about that.
Taylor, let's run the second round here and see what we got, okay? This is someplace to take your wives. Have you taken them yet, guys? It's Christmas time coming. Southern Jim.
We have some family members that have gotten some jewelry there, some engagement rings.
Well, it's a really very nice place, and as everybody knows, hopefully by now, my wife works there, and she's there right now, and she really loves it. She loves jewelry, with much to my concern. But anyway, Southern Gym is a great place. It's on the bottom floor of the Windmill Building, right next to American Revelry. Gayla's going to be on in about 2 weeks. Yeah, that's about right. And she also, on the 26th of this month, they're going to have this ring up for a raffle. For $1 a ticket, you can buy as many tickets as your wallet will allow. You can enter this drawing for this ring, and all the money goes to the Hughley Cancer Center. And it's going to be a fun day. They're going to have gift bags. They're going to have champagne. Gayla is a very traditional Southern woman. She likes to do things like a real hostess. And there's some cookies over there. No, it's going to be very, very nice. So this ring, it's a very nice ring. Robin told me, he said, what kind of ring, what would this go for? And she told me the cost, but I can't say it on the air. So, but anyway, it's very nice. This isn't, some giveaway, just some random piece of jewelry. Anyway, thank you to her. Thank you also to Old Pro Roofing with John Williams, 817-734-2756. If you have some roof needs, you need to call them. And this is a good time to do roof inspections, not when it's pouring rain or right afterwards. So when you find out then you have a problem, now's a good time to do it while we're relatively dry and it's relatively cool. You'll come check it out and tell you the truth about your roof. Either you need a new one, need a repair, or you're good to go. So thank you, John. Also, Thrive Business Center, they are a complete total business suite of packages. Talk to Dee Dee Simpson at 520-955-7860. If you have a small business, she can help you with your website. She can help you with social media. She can help you with the business end of it, like invoicing and emailing and customer service, the whole 9 yards. Several of us in my B&I group use her, and it's a really good system because it does cut down quite a bit on your time and effort. So give her a call if you're looking for something like that. Also, another B&I friend of mine, Lisa Moore-Smith over at Stop Restoration. If you have some sort of environmental damage, hail damage, hail damage, if it causes other damage, you need to have it checked out because a lot of people think, well, I got the roof repaired, I'm good to go, but you don't know what's happened with the water leakage and whatever else. And with mold, such an issue, you need to have them come check it out. They're certified mold specialists. Plus, there's all these other things. It doesn't have to be a catastrophe that you notice. It could be something that's going on that you don't notice, like a hot water heater leak or a shower leak or something like that, and it's causing mold issues with your drywall and things of that nature. So give them a call and have them check it out, and they'll tell you what's going on. Also, Candy Gal at U Mortgage now, but she's changing the name of her business. She and Sammy Jo Campbell, you know her. Didn't you graduate with her? No, you don't. No. That was her older sister. No, is Michaela Sammy's older sister or younger sister?
I think younger.
Okay. But Michaela Hill, of course, we know, but Sammy Jo has done, and Candy have both done a couple of refinances on my house to help pay for college expense and repair expense, all that. And she'll be on the show next week and talk about interest rates and what's going on with the mortgage rates and whatever else. So call Candy if you're refinancing or you're looking to finance a house, 817-925-2661. Also, this is what happened, come up just recently. I was looking on Facebook, and there was this page, Elevate Joshua. I did not know really what that was. And so I looked into it, and what it is, it's a support group for the bond package that's going to be voted on November 7th. And I talked to a couple of people involved yesterday, and I very much support this bond. I'm not in Joshua ISD. We have very similar interests, and we have a lot of Burleson people that go to Joshua schools, and it's a very important package, and I'm going to be pushing very hard to hopefully get a yes vote on this. So November 7th, go out and vote yes for this bond because this bond is necessary for Joshua. Some of the biggest growth in the city of Burleson is actually in Joshua ISD, and their elementary schools are getting very, very crowded, and it's not the most optimal situation. There will be on the show on the 30th this month to talk about the needs for this bond. And so please consider, if you're a Joshua ISD voter, you're in that district, to consider and to vote yes on November 7th. Now, I mentioned that video clip. I'd like to show it again. I know you've seen it probably so many times you can probably recite it by memory now, right?
I never get tired of it.
Yeah, I don't either. So, Taylor, if you had that clip booted up, and that's why he gets the big money.
There it is.
My name's Curtis Brandon and Richard Morris.
Cameron Pilgrim.
Dietrich Jones.
Officer Scott Bartlett.
Gary Gray.
Nick Grace.
James Engel.
Brad Schaefer.
Officer Travis Brown.
Nicholas Thorne.
Casey Martin.
Woody Holman.
Brett McDonald.
John Dana.
Stacy Singleton.
Jack Goldman. I'm the school safety officer for Klingscale Elementary. BISD's evolution in regards to safety is very innovative. I started as the first and only SRO, divided between a high school campus and a middle school campus. Since that time, the program has grown by a number of officers and will continue to grow this future school year. In addition, adding the SSOs to the elementary school, it just exemplifies and shows the district's initiative with regards to safety. It's good to be home.
Safety is guarding the
welfare and the health of these children.
Providing a safe environment for students.
The safety of the kids, the teachers, and the community.
Safe place to learn and to teach for the students and the staff.
Creating an environment of security.
Doing my very best to keep my students and my staff at my school safe.
That kids can come to school and feel safe, and parents can send their kids to school and know that they will be safe.
Protecting the students, the teachers, the visitors.
Safety in schools is paramount. This experience really has been unique in the sense that you really do get to see how students develop over time when they come in as freshmen, how they mature, just the changes people make as they grow.
I mean, these are our kids. I'm a parent. I've had 2 kids come through and graduated from Burleson High School. It's, these kids are our families, our futures. It's everything.
I didn't expect as much positive feedback as we get. I mean, the first month that I was here, almost every parent that was coming in was, "We're glad that you're here. We're glad to see that you're here."
In this job, working for BISD at an elementary school, the kids are so nice to you, the parents, the teachers. I just love it.
This position in itself is extremely important to make sure these kids make it home at the end of the day.
Our main focus is to let the teachers teach and feel safe, and let the students learn and feel safe.
But it's brought me so much joy.
But it's important to me. The students and the staff are now my family. And I feel like I'm taking care of my family.
Safety is the priority.
The number one priority.
Highest priority.
Top priority.
Our number one priority.
Priority number 1.
Safety is our number one priority and our only focus.
Never gets old, does it?
No.
And I forgot the gentleman's name who gets kind of emotional, but
it's Richard Morris.
Right. And it's, it's touching. I had forgotten Nick Grace was part of it, and Cameron Pilgrim, a couple of BHS people. And I'm sure Nick, which campus is Nick on?
They're both at BHS.
Oh, really? That must be interesting. Well, Nick graduated from the old building, so to speak. So, but it's still probably pretty interesting for him to go back and be part of the school. And we were talking about the geography of the schools. Is there any plans to try to, reconstruct or rebuild some of these older schools to make them more retrofitted for safety?
Well, I don't know about plans, but I do know that we have done a lot as a district prior to Matt and I joining the team with regards to safety. All of our campuses have secured vestibules, so you can't just, if you remember the original BHS, the building it is now,
97. Right.
When it was originally built, you could come in those doors, the front door that was unlocked. You could go all the way in, and you could stand at the Elk right by the cafeteria, and you were right where you're supposed to be, and nobody has checked you.
Right.
So they reconfigured that. It was right as I was leaving to make it a secured vestibule so that you can't have access to the main building unless they push a button and open a door to let you in. So you have to go in and check in, and every one of our campuses has that and has for a while. And then, all of our campuses have access control that all of our exterior doors are locked. So that makes it easy that we can push a button. If for some reason, in the past, a door was open. Maybe it's open for a meeting. If we needed it locked, we can push a button and we can shut it and lock it. We have that ability on every exterior door on every campus. We've had visitor management systems, our Raptor system, where anytime somebody comes into the main office for any type of school business, whether it's a meeting, whether it's a meeting during school with the teacher, meeting after school, they go through that system and it screens them for various background issues.
Well, I remember the fob and all this other stuff, and they had to start cracking down on that as well, and much to my irritation. But, BHS was built in a very open fashion. The cafeteria, is wide open. And then you look at Centennial, that center area, that must be a challenge to keep it secure.
Yeah, every campus has its own challenges, and so we just have to work with the campus, those teachers, that administration, as to in certain situations what would happen, where would you go, and that's advice I give every year. We do a training. Myself and Matt, and our SROs, and Courtney Peets do a training at the first of every year where we train every employee in the district, cafeteria workers, maintenance, custodial, bus drivers, childcare. We train everyone on security protocols. And, every now and then a teacher will come up to me and they'll say, hey, my room, is this or that. Where would I go in this situation? And I'll go back to the campus with them and we can talk through it. But I always tell them what you need to do is we need to figure that out now. And have a plan. Everybody needs to have a plan wherever they are, so that if something happens, you already know what you're going to do. And one of the things that I help oversee is all our emergency drills that we do throughout the school year. Whether we're used to the old fire drill, but we do lockdown drills. We do drills for weather, and we talk a lot about situations with an active event, an active threat. But one thing we don't talk as much about publicly, but we do work on behind the scenes with all our campuses is weather.
Right.
We know that at some point this school year, maybe multiple points, weather's going to cause us to have to make some decisions about releasing students, about do we need to go into some type of shelter because of the weather. We know that's going to happen because that happens every year.
Oh, yeah.
And generally it's going to happen right at dismissal, where it's going to cause a lot of decisions to have to be made. But those are things that if you, just like in, my background with sports, if you don't practice, you're not going to be very well when the time comes. And so we practice those, and we make sure that administrators meet together after that to get input and see what went well, what didn't go well. Some campuses ask me to come over and talk through things with them because, it's unfortunate that we're in a day and age where we need to practice some of those things, but that's where we are, and we want to make sure we're prepared.
Let's talk about the weather thing for a minute, though. Those schools, most of them anyway, are pretty solidly built. Wouldn't they be safer inside BHS, Centennial, Kerr?
Oh, sure.
Than they would, instead of letting them go home.
Oh, yeah. And so that's the decision that sometimes has to be made at a dismissal is we may say we're not dismissing until this weather passes, because we know that we have provided a safe place for them rather than walk home, ride a bike home, get in the parent's car. So
that happened my last year. It came about, 3:45. I'm like, figures. And I got to spend, and that particular 8th period drove me crazy. And I had to spend like an extra hour and a half with them. But it is what it is. And then at the time, we had a forecast for terrible weather. And so they let them go like at 1. Nothing happened. And boy, the phones lit up. I guess that's just part of the job.
I don't envy the decision makers on the ice and
it's
snow.
Not you?
I'm not. No, I mean, I might go out and help drive a road and see, hey, it looks good or bad. But I don't make that decision. I just support it. But I know, sometimes you're wrong in whatever you decide. That you go on the best information you have.
Well, no,
and you have to make a decision for the best for everybody. But it's not an easy decision. There's a lot of factors involved.
No, and nobody in the staff is complaining, but I'm sure some parents were, because it was inconvenience and to come pick them up while they're at work and all this other business. But there you go. By the way, Matt, do you deal with parents a lot as well?
On occasion, we'll deal with parents. Parents will call and say, hey, I'm concerned about my child. What kind of supports do we have? And we have a lot of references and referrals that community involvement has been really, really good. So we have a lot of lists of places that if a parent has concerns, we can provide them with the resources necessary to meet whatever need they're having.
So what if though you have an intervention with the kid, then you have to make the call to the parent? I bet that's an unpleasant experience.
Sometimes. Through my experience over the last 2 years, when we have, let's say after hours, weekends, stuff like that, we get an alert and it's of concern, and we call home to the parent to make sure the child's safe. All of the phone calls that I have made personally, and I'll vouch for that part, the parents have been very receptive and appreciative.
Yeah, but it's still tough to tell a parent that you think your son is having suicidal thoughts, or your daughter may be being abused by a young man or a boyfriend, something like that. That can't be a fun
It's not easy by any means, and I try to be as sensitive as I can when I'm reporting it. I mean, I when we get the relays, it gives us a snapshot of exactly what they said. So I read that verbatim to the parent and say, this is exactly what was said. And try to provide that. And then, in a couple of cases, we've actually, we weren't able to get a hold of the parents, and we've called for BPD to go out and do like a wellness check or something like that, just to make sure that the student's safe.
Do you interact with Dave Brown a lot?
Yes, David Brown and I work together. He's one of my colleagues, I guess you would say. He and Christine, what used to be Christine Massey is now Christine Etheridge, our counselor coordinators now, and we work really well together.
Well, I've known David for 20 years. He came in as a counselor in our days together, and I still see him on church. He's a Sunday school teacher and all that, but he's a very fine man. And I know that we would talk a lot, and the frustrating part of his job when he was a campus counselor is that he would want to deal with students kind of like what you're doing, but he had to make schedules and graduation plans and all this, testing and all this other business. And it's like all these other things got in the way of what they wanted to do, which was to take kids in need and try to get them in the right direction or give them the right resources. Now, at one point, this is a while back, we had a roving psychologist, but we didn't have a permanent presence at all. Now we do.
Yes, we do. And we're getting better. I mean, when they came to me about this position, they knew they needed to do something. They needed, this is what's driving it. They wanted to be on the forefront of what was happening. So when I first got hired on, we really didn't have a title or a job description. We just knew what we wanted. Within that, and then I worked really well. Christine and David have been, we work every day together. We talk about how do we, best support our students? How do we best support their needs? What do we need to put in place? How do we educate our counselors and support our counselors that are working with the kids? So,
well, it was interesting though. Last spring, I had the school board candidates on, and in particular, Dallas Owen. That was one of her points of emphasis was teacher mental health. Do y'all deal with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so teachers can all access this as well.
Yes, we have a lot of resources for them. Yes, sir. I apologize. We do have a lot of resources, but we also, through our insurance, have counseling support services that they can look into, and they're free. There's I think between 3 and 6 sessions that they can have that are free.
Really? See, that wasn't available for our days. So basically, we'd either just have to tough it out or, go home and holler and yell. But I was a member of ATPE, and they had this, but it was, some phone counseling, and it's better than nothing. But I like the fact that you can get maybe some personal counseling.
Absolutely.
And where would they get this personal counseling?
Through our insurance. They can call Unum, actually provides it. So they have a resource for them, and we provide that on the counseling website. Christine and David have really built this, so all those resources are there. But through that, they would call them, and they can either do a virtual session where, they're on phone or through the computer or Zoom or something like that, or they can do in person.
That's great. See, you'd be surprised how sometimes teachers could really use that.
100%.
Because you go to the teachers' lounge, boy, it's like a lot of
teaching's hard.
Yeah.
Teaching's hard.
Harder now than it used to be.
Sure.
Much harder.
Much harder now. And I work a lot with my administrators and my teachers and my counselors, and I'll spend time just debriefing with them a lot of times. Let's talk about this. What's going on? What's happening?
Well, we talk about we noticed, in our day, you were mentioning this before, and when you were a student, if you got out of line, the coach could run until you drop, or teacher take you out there and give her a piece of her mind, and it could do it pretty well. I could still see Nancy Klein doing it. But, but that doesn't work anymore, and it's also not allowed anymore in some cases, and it just, it's harder. And then, of course, with all the other things, you get a class of 30, and you have 5 different subgroups that you have to prepare for. For different educational levels and whatnot. It's I miss the colleagues and I miss the atmosphere. I don't miss that part of the job. And that's to be frank. The kids weren't the issue for me. I mean, there was always some wise guy who wanted to, knock your head up, give him a frap or whatever, or some gal that would give you some lip. But that, it wasn't like in 1992 they were all angels then either. So, but it was just harder. And I think this is a very necessary component for the teachers also to have access to this kind of thing.
Absolutely. And I think that was the big push this year, is making sure as a staff, we're at the best place, both mentally and emotionally, because we're going to deal with a lot. On the day in, day out, these teachers deal with a ton. And it is a hard job. So we want to make sure we provide them with all the supports and all the resources necessary so that they are safe.
Of course, what was our sessions? Happy hours. That was our therapeutic sessions. Yeah. And I remember going to a couple of them with some of these guys and like, wow, I thought frat boys could drink. No, but that's good, because that's another problem with students is self-medication, that kind of stuff, so to speak. And now let's say that we're always talking about threats, and we did mention the weather issues, but we're all talking about like physical threats. What about like criminal activity? Do y'all get involved in that as well? Like if there's somebody brought drugs on campus, is what I'm getting at.
I'm not necessarily involved in that as much as the administrators and the police would be. But there are times if that's in the, they found something, maybe the kid had stolen something, maybe there might have been some intent to do something, that I'll go over and assist as needed. I try to stay out of their way when it's those things. But, if it's any type of issue where somebody could have been harmed, they'll call me and they'll call Matt. I mean, we both have an office, but we're hardly ever in it.
Well, you don't get involved though in like school discipline issues. No. Nothing like that at all.
Not officially. I mean, maybe on a, hey, what did you do back in the day on this or that? But that's not really part of what I do.
So you like a fight in the hallway, which I hear is occurring now more than, I went through a long stretch of time where I hardly ever broke up a fight. Now I think some people, particularly after COVID, have resorted to that kind of conflict resolution method. Let's put it that way. Y'all don't get involved in that too much. The SROs, SSOs, they'll intervene, but
SSOs really wouldn't. That's just not their role. And not.
So if a couple of kids in the elementary school start fighting, they just let them beat them. I'm for that. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Just get them out of the system.
As a last resort, they might do something if they're really harming someone, but most of the time, our staff on those elementary campuses can handle those kids. What we don't want is the image of a guy with a gun grabbing an elementary kid.
Yeah.
That's just not their role, and it's not what they're trained to do. They're trained to protect the campus. If there was a larger kid, really getting after a teacher and the teacher was defenseless, then they would step in and protect. But that's not really what their role is.
Does that happen a lot these days? Because I
don't think so.
I don't think so either. I don't recall that ever. And I had one student, I can think of him very clearly. He kind of bowed up on me and said, okay, this might be a problem. So I took him down to Blair Liebert, who was the vice principal, and Blair kind of beat him down to a mound assault. But, he basically got him to, level off. And then I saw that kid about 3 years later at Odom's Barbecue. Remember that joint? And he apologized. He said, I was just in a bad mood that day. He said, well, and I thought that I really thought I'd have a problem because this guy was bigger than me, and he looked like he meant business, but he straightened out and did okay. Sometimes these guys just have a bad day, and sometimes I've had dozens of students said, "Oh, geez, I don't say how you could have stood me when I was in your class." I'm like, you were a kid, you were 15. By definition, you were a knucklehead, and so don't worry about it. It's really gratifying to see how some of these kids have turned out.
Sure.
And I'm really glad to see that we provide both the secure atmosphere and the kind of services that these kids need, that the staff needs, because, like you mentioned earlier, teaching's hard. And I think it makes Burleson a more desirable place to send your kids and to work for.
And I think teaching's really hard if you don't feel safe. I think one of them said it, Kurt Brannon, I think is the one that said, you know, we provide safety so that teachers can teach and kids can learn.
Kurt's
and
kind of
neither of those can happen if you don't feel safe.
Well, Kurt's kind of a local legend, isn't he?
He's a legend.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you could tell he's from Texas, that's for sure. You know, all these guys. But I just, you know, when I see this kind of commitment to security and mental health, it makes me more than glad that I came from this district and that my kids graduated from this district. They're now well past high school age. But it makes me feel good that the people I know with children in school, young adults in school, are getting this type of support as opposed to just letting them drift in the breeze somewhere or having a situation where anything could happen and we were negligent in taking care of it. I mean, will this prevent every and all situations? It'll prevent most of them, you know, and
we'd like to prevent everything, but we also, it's something that we may not be able to prevent. We want to make it as hard as we can.
Right.
For anybody who wants to do harm. We're going to make them have to go through a lot of steps. And with the people we have on campus and the confidence we have in them to do what they need to do, they won't have much time to do anything.
Well, that's good. And because, you know, I look at that Uvalde situation and the incompetence of how that was handled is just appalling. I have no doubt that within 20 seconds of something similar is about to happen, our guys will be on top of it.
Well, I mean, that was one of the main questions in any interview, and I will tell you, you know, Chief Cordell said, I will shoot you on my way walking past you if you're not going to where you need to go. And I have no doubts from any of our 21 people that are serving as either SROs or SSOs that they will absolutely take care of what they need to.
They'll take a bullet. That's good. Well, gentlemen, we're about done here. I really appreciate what y'all do for our district. I appreciate that our district does this for us, and I feel better about our security issues. I never really had a worry, but then I bet the people that went to the school that day in Parkland 4 years ago didn't have a worry either. You know, or Columbine or Uvalde. What was so tragic about Uvalde to me in particular is that I could just see young families dropping their children off, and that's the last time they saw them. And I can't put myself in that kind of place. I'm glad that we are doing everything I think is humanly and financially possible to make this not a situation for us. And I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And this is for our programming note. Thursday, I'm going to probably just do a solo show about what's going on overseas. Not much, you know, Israel, you know, what's going on, I don't know. And also next week we have, let me check the schedule out. As far as guests go, I know we have a couple. I got my handy dandy there phone calendar. How did we ever get by without phones back in the day? You know, I really don't know anymore. Let's see, what do I got? Let's see. I got Harvest House. What's today? 17th. Right. There you go. I got Harvest House on Monday. I got Candy on Tuesday, and I got Promises Community on Thursday. So we'll be talking about some of these similar things with Promises. Do you know Debbie Beeman by any chance?
I don't know her personally, but I know of them.
Yes. And I know Dave for a while. David Brown counseled with them. You know, it was like, I don't know, part-time, whatever. I know he also taught at Hill College for a while. So maybe, I guess we're keeping them too busy now. But anyway, like I said, Harvest House, Candy Gal, and Promises. We got a lot of good shows coming up. So thank y'all, gentlemen. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
You bet.